Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I'm speaking to you from the verse. Now if you're not sure what the verse is, I encourage you to go to my website at rewritingtheverse.com, and that's where you can find out all about the verse, and this includes several written and video updates on there. All the videos from YouTube are on there, and I encourage you to go and check it out, especially the ones that are connected to the past life regressions and rewrites that are connected to twin flames and divine masculine and divine feminine, since that's what this video is going to be about as well. So I am a past life regressionist and I have the ability to rewrite timelines. And so recently I have been guided to do videos that are specific to the twin flame and divine masculine, divine feminine energies, as they seem to provide a lot of power going into upcoming portals. And this video is specifically connected to the upcoming 3/24/2020 new moon in Aries. And so that's coming up in, today's the 20th, so about 4 days. And I was called today to do it on actually a timeline that is talked about in history. It doesn't have all the facts, right? Rarely do they, especially the more ancient the timeline is. But I'm specifically called to look at the timeline where Theseus from Greece, from the history in Greece, and his girlfriend slash wife, I'm probably not going to say her name quite right, Ariadne? I'm going to give you a little bit of history here. I'm going to refer to her as Ari, just for ease for me to not have to repronounce that name throughout the whole thing. And they were twin flames. And things is not unusual for twin flames in history. Things went wrong, and of course it didn't end on a happy note for them. But I am being called today to specifically look at that timeline and use that as the one to heal that will help lead us through this next portal. So, to give you a little bit of history, and I'm not saying I know this is exactly accurate, but this is kind of what's written about in history books, that King Minos of Crete, I believe it was Crete, is the one that was responsible for the Minotaur in the center of the labyrinth. He helped create that, and I'm not going to go into the details of why, but he is connected to the Minotaur. And there's a pretty known story about Theseus coming in and being a part of the ceremonies that they basically did with the Minotaur, with the intent to go in and kill it. But part of the problem is not just was it dangerous to try to kill the Minotaur, once you got into the labyrinth, people couldn't find their way out. And so this is where the king's daughter, Ari, so she's a princess basically, falls in love with Theseus pretty quickly apparently, and so she devises a plan to help him, that if he actually survives going in, that he could find his way out by using some piece of long thread that he would basically attach to the entrance of the labyrinth, and then, you know, go in and follow the thread back out. That's apparently, in general, how he was able to get out of there. So that saved his life. So this is what's already basically written about the storyline, and I'm not going to question how accurate all that is. I do believe, based on the timeline that I'm going to share with you now, what I saw in the past life regression I just did about this couple, what I believe to be now true in the timeline we're looking at, and we'll see where there is to intervene. In fact, I've already been told what there is to do to intervene and rewrite it. However, I have not put that into place yet. I have held on to doing that formally until the end of this video, once we're done with the overall review, we will rewrite that together. So it's definitely a good reason to stick around till the end so that you can find out, along with me, how things will unfold for that couple. And these timelines always impact the entire globe, at least. So it'll heal something on a grand scale. Considering everything that's gone on, especially in the last several weeks on this planet, we could use another really high-level healing. And so this apparently is the couple that we're looking at for this one. I think we'll just get started now and start talking about what I was shown today. That they were indeed lovers, in love with each other, Theseus and Aries, twin flames, absolutely. Pretty much from the beginning of their meeting, there was love present, and he was there in Crete long enough to establish a relationship of some sort, pretty deeply with both of them. But they had to be very careful though. They couldn't let anybody know about their feelings for each other. And what I saw is they actually sent love letters back and forth to each other, like would pass it through a servant or something, and communicate that way. Hey, meet me over here, or whatever. However, because of who she was especially, they had to be very careful about what if these letters were found by people that, would not support their union or their upcoming union, because they were getting to know each other. So actually, I was shown that they actually, in their letters, they would use symbols instead of their names. In case somebody finds it, then they just think, oh, well, this servant must have this crush on somebody, or somebody, a nobody, basically. They wouldn't know it was the princess and Theseus writing to each other. So they absolutely had that going. And it was definitely a strong relationship from the very beginning. But they needed to wait until after the whole Minotaur thing happened before they could really do anything about it on a stronger level. So what I was shown, the first thing they showed me physically in my mind's eye was an ocean, fairly choppy, and a sky, very dark sky, thunderstorms coming towards a boat, a ship. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it wasn't a rowboat either. It definitely had sails. And Theseus and Aries were standing at the front of the boat. I'm going to call that the bow, or I don't know what. The front of the boat, they were standing at the front and holding each other. And immediately they told me they were newlyweds and that they had actually gotten married before getting on the boat. Now, they had snuck off together. This was not something that was known or condoned by King Minos. So this was all done in secret. As soon as the Minotaur thing was over, they snuck off to head back to Greece. And they had gotten married right before they got on the boat. So they are newlyweds. They are newlyweds, and so I see them all, kind of cuddling each other at the front of the boat. But they can't be totally into each other at this point because those are pretty threatening clouds up ahead. So, my understanding is, as typical, these boats tended to try to stay near islands as they crossed, I guess that's the Mediterranean. That way, if there was bad weather, they would have options of places to go to and set down anchor to weather the storm. So this is what they're having to decide right now because it is really dark, looming clouds ahead. They're thinking they have no other choice but to pull off to the nearest upcoming island, and he happens to know the person that kind of runs that island. Okay, so basically, in the history books, the person that runs the island at the time, where it was like the Lord or the God, I think he's actually considered at least half or maybe even full God. His name is Dionysus. Dionysus. Something like that. I'm sorry, I'm murdering these names. Um, but anyway, he knows the guy. And what I immediately got was that the guy has a very piratey feel to him. Like he's going to this island knowing full well that this guy is not to be trusted. That he's kind of a shyster. And yes, he owns the island, or he runs it, or whatever. But yeah, he's not the most trustworthy guy. But they don't really have a choice but to drop anchor in their harbor. So they get off the boat. They go straight to wherever. I'm just gonna call him the guy, the head guy of that island. Goes directly to him and lets him know that they're there, why they're there, because of the weather, and you know, if it'd be all right with them, they'd like to stay at least until the storm passes. And I could see the guy kind of leaning back, you know, like a foot up on the a foot up on the desk or whatever, really kind of nonchalant, and just really, oh sure, you know, that's no big deal. Stay as long as you want, you know. And he's really kind of, I guess, accommodating for the most part. In fact, he kind of goes overboard a little bit by saying, "Oh, you two are newlyweds? Well, you know what?" He offers them. He's got a chalet, is the word I was told to use. A chalet, beach chalet or whatever, on another part of the island that is very beautiful in that part of the island. Apparently, the whole island isn't necessarily like this, but in this one small spot, it's like luscious and green, and I saw really tropical looking plants there. And he said, "Well, I'm not using that. You're welcome to go spend some time there. Have a honeymoon. You're here anyway. You might as well stay for a few days." And they were thinking, you know, they obviously didn't have a honeymoon before they left. And who knows, you know, what it's going to be like when they land in Greece and deal with everything over there. So, you know, they both felt like, you know, this might be an excellent opportunity. So the plan was for them to stay 3 full days and then get back, you know, on the ocean. So this was the arrangement. And so Theseus tells all the guys on the ship, you know, "Hey, we're going to be here for several days. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the people, whatever you want to do. It's a little R&R, and we'll get back to things in a few days." Okay. So everybody's, hey, great, you know. And they do. They go off to that little chalet, and now there's 2 servants over there, a man and a woman, kind of like a butler and a maid, kind of, that are always on staff there in case the god guy came by to use it. They were always there. And so they, you know, took care of them too. So it was a blissful 3 days, I have to say. They really had just the most amazing time together, swimming in the ocean, laying out in the sun on the sand, you know, doing lots of things on the sand like lovers do, and just that twin flame just burning bright, right? Unfortunately, that gave the pirate guy, the main guy of the island, 3 days to hatch a plan to basically steal Theseus's wife, is really what it boils down to. So, the minute he saw her in his office or whatever, when they first walked in, he was immediately, I mean, the woman was beautiful. You know, it's one of the curses of, you know, beautiful women, especially in history. You're, you know, often the target of this kind of attention. So anyway, he really liked what he saw, and he coveted her as soon as he met her. So for 3 days he had time to cook up a plan. And he was able to get the captain, or at least I called him the captain, but the main guy that was running the ship that Theseus was on. He was able to, I think, pretty much buy him with gold or whatever to help him with his plan. So, third day comes. They've enjoyed the full 3 days. It's going to be one night, and then the ship is going to come into the little area that they're staying and pick them up, and they'll head on. So it's their last night there, and I guess it would be the maid person brings in a canter of wine and you know, the usual stuff, and they don't hesitate to drink it, you know, enjoying their last night there. Problem is, they had added some sort of a drug. They weren't trying to kill them necessarily, but they definitely wanted them incapacitated for at least 24 hours probably. So both of them were knocked out by that. And when they come to, things are very different. So I'll start with Theseus. Theseus wakes up the next day, late in the day, or at least afternoon, finally comes out of it a little bit, very groggy, very hungover from whatever it was. And his captain of the ship is standing there. And by the movement, he knows the ship is actually already out to sea. What's going on? You know, Aries is nowhere to be seen, so what's going on? And the guy pretty much says, "I'm sorry to inform you, sir, but your wife came by and gave me this letter to give to you and let you know." And he went ahead and read the letter, okay, word for word. And it basically said something along the lines of, you know, I can't remember exactly now, but something about that she wasn't in love with him, that the whole thing was a ruse to get her off of the island, get her away from her father, and that she was in love with the main guy on this island. So he's been used, and not really sorry about it, basically, and don't come back. I've made my choice. Okay? And so you could have, you know, done reading the letter, and Theseus is just left in the little space to just fall apart. You know? This is his twin flame, remember? These are not relationships that, you know, you shed one tear over. No. Devastated. And still a little out of it anyway from the drugs. It took him a little while, you know, but he definitely was extremely depressed with hearing this. And they were on their way back to Greece. And then they showed me what happened with Aries. Okay, so she wakes up. She's actually in whatever bed there is at the chalet. She wakes up. Again, same kind of groggy, what happened? You know, where's Theseus? And the maid pulls out a letter. And the letter says, pretty close to this, you know, same basic story, that I didn't really love you. I was just using you. You know, I don't want to be your husband anymore, and I'm done. Don't come looking for me. Something along the same kind of basic. Don't ever look for me. The whole thing was a sham, basically. And of course, she's feeling the same level of emotion about about this loss now. And she asks for the letter. Now, hold on. Okay, they were giving me some of this information a little farther down the road, so I don't want to say any more about that other than she's in absolute distraught too about that. So both of them believe, in the end, both of them believe that the other has rejected them or abandoned them. In that moment anyway, that's what they believe. And so Theseus continues to sail on to Greece, and things go how they go in the history books. You know, nothing has changed based on this so far. This is how it basically went. So these twin flames are left believing now about the abandonment. And that's, again, one more loss for the twin flames and another scar for the twin flame collective, right? Trying to think if there's anything else about that I need to say before we look at the rewrite. Okay. So when I'm done looking at the highlights of a timeline, it's at that point that I ask my guides to show me, if it is for the highest good, where can we intervene and have it be rewritten for a better outcome. And this is what they told me. So I'm going to kind of situate myself here, because this is where we're about to start the real rewrite. Because this is where they were saying to intervene, and as I do this and talk about it, it will start to become written. So, okay. So what they said or showed me for the highest level was Ari had asked for the letter so she could read it herself and probably reread it, whatever, you know. She had asked for it, and the woman just gave it to him, you know, walked out or whatever. But ultimately, remember how I said in the beginning that they had used love letters to communicate secretly before? And that they had specific symbols that they used instead of names. And the moment Ari looked at that letter and saw it was just his written name, she knew he hadn't written it. She immediately knew. And oh, one of the things that I forgot to mention, sorry, in the original one, they did show the guy that on the island, that he was present when she woke up. And so he was a part of giving her that BS story about him asking, actually he said Theseus had asked him to give her the letter. Okay, so he was a part of delivering that message. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So he is there. He is there. And he's acting very, when it's being read and she's getting the news, he's acting very, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to you. This shouldn't have happened to you. He's such an ass for doing this to you. Whatever you need. You just stay as long as you need. You can stay here in the chalet as long as you need and heal and do whatever. You don't have to leave the island. Just so accommodating, right? Well, the moment, here, back to the rewrite, the moment she notices that it's not his symbol on there, she knows that Theseus did not write that. She immediately is very mad and demands to know what the true story is. Now, his mask of being a nice guy disappeared in that moment, and basically told her, you know what, He's on his way back to Greece. He's not coming back. He thinks whatever he thinks. Doesn't matter. You're not going anywhere. You're mine. You're mine. You will marry me. And this is how it's going to be. It's really, yeah. Now, unfortunately, I don't see that she has much of an opportunity to get herself off that island and to escape that. That's pretty much, I believe, the island becomes her prison, at least until she finally acquiesces to everything. She's not going to be able to go anywhere. So that's what happened on her side. On Theseus's side, this is where something had to change. And I actually kind of hiccuped on that. Hiccups a lot of times are confirmations for me that about what I'm about to say or did say is truth. That it was on his side that things needed to change, to be rewritten. Remember, that captain was in on the whole deal, on the whole plot. He had read the letter to him, and Theseus just didn't think to question his loyalty, or didn't think. Let's just say, just didn't think. And he didn't ask for that letter. Had he asked for the letter, he would have seen the same thing that Aries had. That they had spelled out her name and did not use her symbol, and he would have known immediately. So here's the rewrite. Here's what's going to change, and then we'll see how it plays out, because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. But basically, I see him walking up now. The captain's up on top now, sailing, whatever, whatever he's doing. And he kind of walks up next to him. And I think, I'm sure that the idea had crossed his mind that he needed to get the letter just for his own purposes. Probably not even looking to look for any foul play, just wanting it for himself. And so he walks up next to him and says, hey, can I get that letter from you? And again, nobody knew about their secret language as far as the symbols go, so he didn't think much of it, and he handed it over to him. So he opens it up as he's standing right there, and immediately notices the name and not the symbol. And he immediately knows that it's a sham. So he basically questions him one more time. So you're saying that Ari came up to you directly and handed this to you to give to me? Oh, yeah. So Theseus immediately basically tells everybody to jump on him, because there's a threat. Something just like a thief in the night, right? Everybody jumped on him. He explained why he was concerned. This is a forgery, I know it is, and you better tell me everything you know about this or you're going overboard. Which is death, of course. I don't think they used planks even, they just tossed you over. And with all these guys holding on to him, that was going to happen if he didn't fess up. So he did, basically say what he knew about the plan. And they went ahead and, put him down below and tied or whatever. Anyway, they didn't kill him right then anyway. But ultimately, they turned that boat around. And I'm feeling the energy shift right now as I said that. They're turning the boat around. Now, it took them a few hours, but they went at their top speed to get back. And this is where I'm going to now be seeing kind of how it's unfolding. So they pull into where the little chalet is. They come in, it's closed, and then of course they have to, anyway, get out and get to the beach. But I see her running out. She's wearing some sort of like a white, I want to say like it's pajamas or something, but long white flowing thing. I see her just running out of the doorway towards him. Now, granted, I'm not sure if the guy is still there or not, but anyway, they're obviously not expecting him to come back, so. Anyway, she runs out, embraces him. They both, you know, actually tears on both sides. I think even Theseus, I mean, that's a powerful twin flame, divine masculine, divine feminine love, I'm telling you. Make even the men cry. Anyway, and they both basically said, I knew you didn't leave me. I knew you couldn't have. I knew you couldn't have. It just, there had to be some other explanation. So, trying to see if they actually confront the guy. If he's there, he's inside still because I don't see him. Or if they're just going to pick her up and take her with them. What I'm getting, what they're telling me. I mean, on that island, the guy was king, you know. Theseus had no authority on that island. So to try to come in and hold him accountable for anything, I probably would end up getting himself captured. And no, I think they just need to get her back on the boat and get the heck out of there. But ultimately they're saying, basically, you knew he was a pirate, you know. Are you really that surprised? So I really get that they just get her back on the boat and they hightail it out of there. And the guy isn't going to come after them, you know. He knew he was a thief. He was trying to take something that wasn't his and he failed. And he's not going to send an armada after them or anything like that. As long as they got clear of his island, you know, they went on. And it's changing the energy because in the first version, she ends up being, like I said, a prisoner on the island and ultimately becomes the guy's wife. And they have their own storyline that unfolds. But now this is her being with her twin flame. Both of them being together, obviously. Now, he was already a powerful person without her. I mean, he was a hero already at that point, which is one of the reasons he was the one facing that Minotaur versus anybody else. So, question now is, I'm going to see if there's anything significant. Okay, the first thing is, in the storyline, and this is in like the history books or whatever, again, how accurate it is, but basically, when Theseus left Greece to go do what he was going to do, his father had asked that upon his return, upon the boat's return, that they, I believe, if I'm getting it right, if he was alive, if he had survived his ordeal, they would come with the sail up, and if he had died, they'd come with the sail down. I think I'm getting it right. It's one way or the other. And in the first version, even though he had survived, I actually believe now that it was that level of depression and the untrustworthiness of that captain that had them not raise the sail. And supposedly when his father saw that the sail was down, he assumed his son was dead and he committed suicide. Okay? So this is ultimately going to shift that as well because they're coming in really... well, the sail's up. We got good stuff going on. More happened over there than just the Minotaur, right? So now that loss doesn't happen. In the first version, he lost his father and his twin flame. Theseus did. So anyway, so this is looking better already. Father doesn't die. They're actually extremely happy. I mean, he's now got a daughter-in-law he didn't even know he had, and he's excited about that. So this is going to shift Greece, I believe. I mean, I know that Theseus goes on to make a difference in Athens as it was. Sorry, made me laugh. You know, Theseus is pretty smart. I have to give him credit. He's a smart guy, he's a dynamic guy, and he's a good leader. But Ari? She's the brains between the two of them, actually. And if he wasn't already an amazing leader, now she's very vocal with him and probably people around that her thoughts and ideas about government, about setting up Athens, about all of that gets woven into the picture now. And I'm trying to see if there's a specific example they can give us. I'm hearing the word democracy because we know that Greece was kind of where, at least one of the places on the planet where democracy was trying to get a foothold. Seeing if they're going to give me any more details about what specifically she brought in. Okay, I'm getting the word law. I'm kind of maybe getting the checks and balances kind of idea. I mean, democracy's fine and all, but I don't think they necessarily had any kind of checks and balances, which, well, as we can even see today, even with those things in place, there's a lot of corruption out there in in the world governments and lower governments. But ultimately, something about the law, fairness, justice. Justice is connected to her. I almost want to say now that whoever, I know there's some goddess, I don't know, some goddess that represents, you know, the scales, and I'm not sure who that is. Don't know enough about specifically what god or goddesses or goddess is in the person that holds the scales or whatever, but I feel like this is okay. I'm being told she's another aspect of this goddess, or an earlier version of who that symbol is. It's ultimately her. That's just ultimately what I'm getting. Her soul was meant to be powerfully a part of the fabric of Greece, and ultimately what it stood for and what it helped create in the world. She was meant to be at least an equal part in that as Theseus was. Much more powerful and fair way of doing business in government. Well, mackerel, are we going to rewrite? We might be rewriting the governments on this planet, at least the ones that are based on democracy. Justice? Real justice? No, not the fake kind that's out there, but real justice? Okay. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. It means we can have earlier successes with these types of things, so we don't have to still be dealing with the level of corruption we're dealing with now. That's what I'm getting. The big part of the corruption in politics, especially, again, the ones that follow the democratic side of things, the reason they're as bad as they are is because of the lack of upholding the law, of upholding the politicians to the law. Yeah, I'm not an expert on all that, but I think pretty much everybody can see that there are different standards for politicians, if there are any standards for politicians sometimes. This is going to correct that problem from its inception. Okay, so when I haven't formally put the rewrite in place. When I do, this is what the result will be. Ari, Rednie, whatever her name is, I wish I could say it properly, honor her in this moment. She will bring balance to governments. Okay. And I'm changing that right now. So that lifetime is flipping now. He sees that symbol is not on that letter, and he hightails it back there and picks her up. And they head back to Greece. And they get to really live a long, happy, beautiful life together. And they co-create a big part of what democracy looks like. And that doesn't mean only democracy gets that. I'm getting it's bigger than that. It's bigger than democracy. It becomes a standard no matter what the political slant is of different countries. They see the value of law, holding everybody to the same standard, basically. Holding people accountable as a key part of government. What a novel idea. So that is shifting right now, and I'm starting to feel the energy come into this timeline now. Now, I live in the United States, and this is absolutely going to impact our government in a positive way. All of the governments that are being affected by this right now, it's all positive. Finally means that, equal checks and balances on the planet, not just for the common people, as far as being held accountable to law. Justice. Justice at its finest. I feel actually the whole legal system right now. Wow. Ooh, I'm getting a lot of energy on that. The whole legal system. It's not just the government, but the legal system that's it's attached to is rocking and rolling right now. Wow. That is what's needed on this planet right now, especially on the government level. We need politicians that are really working for the people. Governments that are actually really standing for their people. And anybody that's in it for their own gains, crooked, especially using it to stomp on the little people, they need to be out of there. Out of power and held accountable. And this may have been what was needed right here. I'm not surprised at all, actually. It makes perfect sense to me. I'm still getting a lot of energy on this. It's actually getting a little stronger now. See if there's anything else they want to share with me about this. There's a lot. I'm aware that there's a lot going on right now. This is in the midst of the coronavirus threat, and we're actually, here in the U.S. anyway, in the process of starting a full shutdown, I believe. And I do believe that a big part of why everything is shutting down is because there is justice being served on this planet right now. But this just gave it a huge boost. I'm not sure exactly how, but they have even more authority somehow to go in and hold these crooked people, corrupt people, not just in the government, but on the entire planet, those that have worked against humanity, have got to be held accountable now and taken out of power. And I do believe, like I said, that this is already happening to some degree right now, but this just, just use the words and the imagery that they just showed me. That this is like handing the military, the police, whoever the good guys are right now, handing them a silver platter, or golden platter. It's actually golden color. A golden platter of power. Just power. Somehow, I'm feeling something in my head right here. Somehow this gives them even more ability, apparently, to get out there and collect those that need to be taken out of power, those that need to be held accountable. This somehow gave them a huge boost right now. It's exposing some people or beings that may not have been visible to them yet. Now they're visible. Wow, this is really helping the quote-unquote good guys, the ones that are trying to help the planet right now. This just gave them a big boost, a big help. They have a big task ahead of them as the planet continues to be held kind of locked down until they can gather whoever they need to gather. But I feel like I said, it was like offering them a golden platter, not just a silver platter. Okay, so silver platter is supposed to be really good, so how much better is a golden platter, right? Handing the riffraff over on a golden platter, so they don't have to work so hard to find them and corral them. Because something about this shifted history enough. Because now we're talking about, I can't remember how many thousands of years ago this is, but basically thousands of years old. Now we've had lifetimes since then. Justice, I keep getting justice is the big word right now. This is the big takeaway of this particular timeline. Justice is served. Which means the balance of power on this planet goes from this small group up here of corrupt beings. Oh, not even. Yeah. These people have lost a lot of what people, it's out of balance the other way, but ultimately it's bringing balance to everybody else. Let's say that. That small group of beings and people, well, they're going to lose a lot of their rights because they did violate crimes of humanity, actually, is what I'm told. So they're not going to have a whole lot of rights after this because they lost them. But for everybody else on the planet, we're all going to be held to the same standards. That includes politicians and Joe Public over here. Everybody has the same standards now. And it's time for the governments to serve the people like they were always meant to. So, well, if you've made it this long, thank you so much for being here. Another powerful rewrite. I love this twin flame, divine masculine, divine feminine energy. It does miracles, and this one is specifically going to help us sail through this March 24th, 2020 new moon in Aries. So please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, peace and joy.